Excel files are messy, but they are a sad fact of life, so let's learn to clean up messy Excel files with R. In this Excel files we can see a lot of orders from different segments. These segments are labeled consumer, corporate or home office. And for each one of those segments there is a shipping method labeled first class, same day, second class or standard class. Also for each segment there is a total column that we don't need. Alright, that's our data, let's clean this. We're first going to set our directories so that we can always find our Excel files. Then we're going to call the readXLSX function and specify the file name that we want to load. And what I like to do is to specify the sheet that we want to load from our Excel files. Otherwise, if I don't specify it, it will just load the first one. Calling this will give us this kind of table. We can see here that the column names are basically the first row from that Excel file. And what we really want is to use the second row as column names. So let us skip the first row. Then we'll have these column names. And these are very bad column names due to the fact that they use these little quotation marks that are just annoying to type. So we're going to fix them by using the name repair argument. And we're going to set it to the make clean names function from janitor. Now we can see that we have programming friendly column names. Also notice that the column names for the total columns became x, x_2 and x_3. Since we don't need them, let's first remove them. To do so, we first load the tidyverse, which will also give us access to all the cool functions that we need for cleaning our datasets. Then we're just going to select the columns that start with X. These are exactly the columns we want to get rid of, so we negate our previous call to get rid of those columns. Then we take care of the first row of our dataset. All we need from this is the name order ID. So let's manually set the column label to order ID and make the first row go away with slice. Now we need to make sure that the column names contain references to their segment. To do so, we create a vector that describes our segment names. We then do the same for the shipping modes, and then we combine these two vectors by repeating the segment names once for each shipping mode, and we repeat the shipping modes as often as we have segments. In this vector we have most of the new column names now. So let us replace the rename call by rename with. That uses a function defined by the tilde operator that always returns a column vector with our desired column names. All that is left to do is to rearrange the data from all but the first column. What we need for that is a regular expression that can detect the segment and shipping method from the column names. Once we have that regular expression, we can use pivot longer to rearrange the data by targeting all but the first column. Here we use our regular expression for the patterns of the current column names and map the matches from that regular expression to segment and shipping mode. And of course we want to get rid of all the missing values that are currently in our dataset. Perfect, now we have clean data. And if you want, you could also sort this dataset. Our second Excel file looks basically the same as the first one, except for the fact that it doesn't have total columns. Also, instead of order ID, it uses order dates. This means that we can clean that file with mostly the same code. We just have to use the new file name, get rid of the part where we remove the totals columns, and instead of order ID, we use order date. Cool, that was easy. What's left to do is to take care of those annoying Excel dates. To do so, we first convert them to numeric vectors instead of characters. And then we use the Excel numeric to date function from janitor to convert these numbers to actual dates. In our next example, we have all of our data mixed into single rows. If we look closely, we can see that we can extract names, addresses, ages and genders from these rows. We do this by loading the data as before, and what we get is a table where all of the information is in one column. So we use the separate function to target that column and separate it into name, address, age and gender. And the way to split that is to use a regular expression that always has a white space followed by one of the four categories and yet another white space. The results aren't perfect because the first column still contains the word name. Also, notice the small quotation marks in the address column. They are there because some of the street names still have trailing white space. We fix all of this by first removing the word name followed by an empty space in the name column. Then we can get rid of leading or trailing white space in the address column by using str trim. Before we move on to the next example, let me remind remind you to hit that like button if you find this stuff useful. So with that said, let's get back to the content. In our fourth example, we take a look at an Excel file that uses a column which mixes a quantity with its unit. Once again, we load the data and then we just use str extract to, well, extract the words from the quantity column. Here I'm using a regular expression that is looking for small letters, capital letters, or a dot. The plus means that I'm not only looking for a single one, but for one or more letters. This will give us the unit, and then we can extract the quantity by calling parse number, which will just extract the first number it finds in each entry of the quantity column. In our next Excel file, we try to get rid of typos where numbers are by mistake spelled with, for example, O's instead of zeros. You can find these cells easily as they are left aligned instead of right aligned like the regular numbers. So let us load the Excel file and create a vector that contains all of the things that we want to replace. We can use this replacement vector in str replace all by calling mutate, and since we want to target all of the columns here, we will need to use the across function as well. It helps us to apply a function to multiple columns. In this case, we apply a function that puts a column's content into str replace all as first argument and our replacement vector as a second argument. In our next example, we can see an Excel file that combines multiple things with these vertical lines in both the category and the amount column. To untangle this, we first load the dataset. As we need to target multiple columns, we use mutate and across again. Then we target all but the first column and use the str split function, using this vertical line as a split indicator. Notice that this vertical line is a special character in regular expressions, so we need to escape it with 2 backslashes. Once we execute this, we get a nested tibble with all of the split stuff. To untangle this nested tibble, we just use unnest on all but the first column. And in our final example, we have a fake data set with empty rows and columns, or columns that don't have any information at all. Also, we again see date columns that do not have a proper date format. We can fix all of that with help from more janitor functions. So for the last time, we load an Excel file, and then we can remove empty columns and rows with remove empty. Then we can also remove constant columns, which in this case will get rid of the column that contains only yes. Finally, we can fix the dates once again using the Excel numeric to date function. Alright, we have cleaned 6 Excel files, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you liked this video. Have a nice day and see you next time.